Hello, everybody, and welcome to Catholic Truth Family, your place to know all about love, relationships, dating, engagement, marriage, children, and more. Today, we have a wonderful guest with us. Her name is Michelle Marinaccio. Hopefully, I didn't massacre her name, but she is the mother of 3 children, and including 2 twins who were born less than 3 pounds. And imagine, moms and dads, if you had a child that you were waiting for so long, and then all of a sudden they were born so small that they had to stay in the hospital for 3 months, and you couldn't even hug your kids. You couldn't snuggle with them. And this was just the beginning of the struggles. And so, this happens sometimes with parents. I mean, my own child was in there for 3 weeks, not even 3 months. And it was a really big struggle. I mean, all you want to do is hug them and kiss them and snuggle them, and you can't. So, I met Michelle randomly at our church, and she had a story about her children. She's had struggles. They were very difficult. She had to get through them. And, her faith helped her in that. So she's here today to join us and to share her story and to share her story of faith. And I want to thank you for coming on the show, Michelle. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Bryan. I'm so happy to be here sharing my story. Ever since I got pregnant with the twins, it was always in the back of my mind, are they going to be born early? How's it going to go? I was just so nervous and scared during my whole pregnancy. But, praying to God every day, waking up and just asking the Lord, what's my plan? So when they were born at 30 weeks, and that was their time to be born. And throughout, their NICU journey, God was with them, watching them and helping them grow and thrive. But, I had a lot of struggles along the way leading up to that. I was traumatized. I had preeclampsia. My blood pressure was over 200. I was in the hospital for 16 days myself. I was in critical condition. So I, really couldn't spend much time up in the NICU in the beginning because I was taking care of my own health issues. And so the first time I went up, the day after I had my C-section, a doctor came in the room, and it was an ENT. And she told me, she said, and at this point I didn't even see my babies yet because they were born C-section, and the NICU took them right up to the NICU, intubated them, got them on oxygen. And they said, you can't see the babies for a while. So I really out of it. I went down into, my room, and, my husband went up there at like 12:30 at night and basically took a picture of both of the babies in the incubator and brought it down to me. That was my first experience seeing my own children, which was so sad. You have that vision of having your baby, and having the baby on you and having that first connection with your child, but I didn't. And that was something that was missing. And I feel like I missed out on that experience. That's why I actually had a third child, to see if the experience would be a different experience, which it was. Thank God, that was great. But for this experience, I didn't have that. And I just felt like lost and lonely, it was really sad. So that next morning, an ENT came in, and she said,
my wife, just for the record, had the same struggle as you did. The only thing she wanted is the skin to skin to contact, to have the baby on her. And our first baby, no, they just took the baby, started washing her, got her ready. She didn't get any of that. And she was like devastated. And she still feels like she missed out on something from that first one. But so, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, if you have that experience, you're thriving for that. And so the ENT came in, and she says, your child was born with a little ear. He has no ear. And I says, what do you mean? I'm like, she's like, oh, you'll find out later on. And I was like, I didn't even see my child yet. So that was traumatizing, because then in the next 2 minutes, I went up to the NICU in a wheelchair. There was actually a priest that came with me. and was praying with me, you know, because I back, you know, and rewind for a few seconds, I broke my water, and you know, they said, well, the twins could stay possibly in, but you know, we might have maybe you could last with your water broken a few weeks. And I was like, I don't know if that's possible. So anyways, the priest was coming to the room for a few days praying with me that this is going to happen. So I became very close with him throughout my journey. So moving on, everyone came up with me to the NICU, and I was crying. I was so scared to even see them because they were just so critical. You couldn't, you know, of course, you couldn't hold them. My biggest fear was the NICU. And my grandma actually passed away in a hospital. So when I was in 5th grade, so I had a lot of PTSD regarding hospitals, and I was petrified of this whole situation. So it was like the perfect storm. I was working through my own issues of like being traumatized in a hospital. Now I'm being traumatized going up to the NICU, seeing my children, now realizing that my son has one ear and not knowing if, you know, he had other things wrong with him as well. So they ran a bunch of tests and did all this stuff. So that was like my first meeting of that with them. Then I was able to put like one of my pinky fingers into the NICU to like touch them. And, you know, it was just, I had PTSD for the longest time regarding all the situation. And then I went back downstairs that day, and then I got diagnosed with preeclampsia again before birth and after. So then I was on magnesium sulfate, which is a medication that affects your central nervous system. And it prevents you from having a seizure. So that's the main thing with preeclampsia is you can have seizures. So you have to be on this medication for 24 hours in bed. It's IV. You cannot eat, you cannot get out of bed. And you basically, if you have a baby, you can't hold your baby, like you can't get up because, you know, you're wobbly. So I was dealing with that. And then, you know, in the hospital for 16 days. And then, you know, after that all happened, I went home. And, you know, I would go to the NICU every single day, you know, basically, I would call at the middle of the night when I would wake up and pump basically, because that was the best for them, breast milk. Because being premature, it's hard for them to digest formula. So that was something that was a positive thing that I was able to do for them, that, you know, it was nourishing them, and making them grow. And that's, you know, luckily, thank God that the boys, they were pretty healthy. You know, they said that their status in the NICU was pretty much, you know, these boys we'd call them growers and feeders. So a grower and feeder is just someone who's there to grow and eat and learn how to drink a bottle, you know, everything like that. So they did really well regarding that. But I would be petrified when the monitors would go off, you know, the monitors would ding. And being a NICU parent, that's one of the drawbacks that they always talk about is the dingers, like the ding, ding, ding. If the heart rate goes down or if the oxygen level or whatever it is, you're looking at that screen, and that screen is just like scary.
Totally.
But
My wife and I had the same fears too. We'd heard it beep, 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 beep. We're like, what's going on? What's wrong with my baby? You know, like, and then, you know,
they're like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. If the whole team comes running in, then you know it's something. That's what they would say. So one time the team did come running in, and I was like so scared because I had twins. We had we had one room, but you're not just worrying about one baby, you're worrying about two at once. So I'm, you know, thinking about the ringers on that baby versus the other baby. So it was so scary, and so much to handle. And
what were your before you get to Christmas, what were your, like when you were at home, like, did you have a hard time sleeping? Like, were you praying a lot? Were you just worried a lot? Like, did you have a lot of support from your husband? Like, this must have been really hard to go through for you.
Yeah, I had a lot of support from my husband, from my family, from everyone, and from God. You know, I would pray to God every day, you know, to help guide myself and to help protect my children in the NICU. And, there was a priest at St. Mary's, Father Denny. He
Oh,
used
I
to be a
love Father
priest.
Denny.
And he has been with me ever since the beginning with this, with my children. He would message me, FaceTime me, just pray with me over them. And he's just, and same with my Jojo too. I had some things going on when he was younger, and Father Denny would just be there for me. And I think I know my faith has definitely grown throughout this process, because going on the other side now, my boys are thriving, they're doing well. And with Jesus's help and and being committed and praying to God, that is really the reason why they're doing so well. And just my faith is so important in my everyday life. And that's, what it's all about. And I really have, I'm a NICU, I'm trying to think of the word of NICU volunteer for the NICU team. I'm on the board. And it's parents basically that had a child in the NICU. You volunteer, and it's a group. You meet every month and you help different NICU parents. And one experience, the boys' National NICU Day is November 16th, and the boys were born on November 13th. So
Oh, wow.
I were born at Yale. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Yale, but there's a NICU 11th floor and a 10th floor on the NICU. So the 11th floor is more the intensive care unit. So they were on the 11th floor when they were born for more intensive care.
Our daughter was on the 10th floor.
Okay. Yep. And so these women came in with these 2 big bags full of NICU things, and they were from the March of Dimes, and they were from this support group that I belong to now. And they were just there and sharing their experience with me. And at that point, their kids were like 5 or 6 years old. And they came in and they said, "This is for you. These are like NICU. These are little baby hats. These are clothes. These are books. This is cream for you. This is chapstick for you. Different things for you." And they said, you may not be prepared to have any NICU things because you thought your baby was going to be born normal, a normal gestation. So that just warmed my heart. And I thought it was amazing coming from the other side, looking, their babies, their kids were thriving. They're 5 or 6, doing so well. And my babies were just frail and fragile and small and in the incubators, and me just looking at them. And I'm like, wow, I wish I could be in your shoes right now. 5 or 6, and they're doing so well. I didn't know what was going to happen to them. I didn't know if they were going to survive. So at that point, I was like, I want to give back. I want to do that one day. So it was a year and a half after the boys got discharged from the hospital. I reached out to Michelle Gray. She was, she's in charge of this. And she also had 2 kids in the NICU as well. And she's like, "You'll reach out to me when you're ready," because I had a lot of PTSD regarding this. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do anything with the NICU right now because I'm just scared, but I reached out to her, and I want to give back, and I want to be that parent standing in that room, talking to the on the other side to say, "This is where we're at. And we were in your shoes. We know what you're feeling. I'm here for you." Just having a person like that in your life could really change your perspective on things, or, just somebody to talk to who knows what you went through. And the biggest thing is with NICU, nobody really knows what you went through unless you're a NICU parent. It doesn't matter if it's for a day or 100 days. You still walk through those doors. You're still in the NICU. That is real. And, you can't diminish that. It doesn't matter how long your stay is. It's still your experience.
And not just walking through the doors, but like walking out of the doors every night and leaving your baby behind. Like my wife was in tears like almost every night. She just did not want to leave her baby. All she wanted to do was hug her, hold her, feed her, be there for her. And we worried, is she going to have issues? Is she going to have problems? The earliest days are the most important, and there's no one to cuddle them and love them and be there with them. And, so we had all these fears and worries. And I think kind of like you, sometimes there's only one thing he can do, and that's just give it up to God and trust him and trust that he's going to write straight with the crooked lines and make it all right. And, give you the strength that you need and, the time wasted and that sort of thing. And, our baby was 4.5 pounds and now she's 12, so she's growing, she's getting to be a little chunk and, she's healthy as far as Down syndrome babies go. And she is just full of smiles and we cuddle her all day now. And so, yeah, it's tough at the beginning, but, once you get through it, it does become better. But that is a tough part. Even just the test to get them home. Can I bring them home? And they have to sit in a car seat for an hour and a half. Like you go through PTSD just with that alone. Like, what if they fail? What if they fail? You hear a beep and like, oh my gosh, they're going to fail. They're going to fail. We're going to be here for another 2 weeks. Like freaking out.
I know. No, I totally agree with that. And I think, as I mentioned earlier about the dings and the beeps and everything, even though when you're there, it's so scary hearing it. But when you're home, for me personally, I said, oh, I want those dings and beeps. I want to make sure they're okay.
Totally.
So I was like, wait, they're in the bed. I'm like, is their oxygen okay? Are they breathing? With their heart rate? Like I was obsessed with that because I was always looking at it. So when I was home, there's no monitors. I'm like, it's on me. I'm like, I was so nervous. Like, for the longest time, I was looking into, they had something that you can put on the baby's foot to measure that oxygen and this and that. But my pediatrician says, no, you're going to go, it's just, you're going to lose your mind with that because it's just, you're nervous.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me leave it up to God. God is watching them. God knows what the plan is for them, and he is going to help guide them, and everything's going to be okay. And that's really what you have to do, is just really leave it up to God. And he has a plan for everyone in this world, and everyone has a special place in his heart. And that's what I really believe, that he gives us the strength every day to just get through. And, we have the strength inside of us from Jesus. So I really, we're so lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. And we struggled with the same thing when they came home from the NICU. We're like, because every once in a while her oxygen would drop, at the hospital. So we're like, well, what if it drops at home? What if she can't breathe? Like like what's going to happen? And you just like freak yourself out because like nobody understands this until you become a parent. Like you think, like, what you care for, but like the worst thing in the entire world is that something would happen to your kid, rather than you. You would rather die yourself or have that happen to you yourself, suffocate to death and have it happen to your kid. Like it's the biggest fear in the world and it's the biggest sorrow in the world. And I've had people on this channel, actually it's on our main Catholic Truth channel. I should repost it on this one, the Catholic Truth family channel, of a dad who had his son kicked up into the air, I think 30 feet into the air by a horse, and his lungs collapsed and he died 2 days later. And he just got so mad at God and his world became so black. And I was in my master's degree for theology with this guy, and we had to write a paper on the meaning of suffering and why God allows suffering. I didn't know all this happened to this guy. And then when I found out he was my partner, I was like, what could I ever say? I have nothing to add. The whole thing. And so I had him on my channel, and man, he just shared the most heart-wrenching story, but how he came through stronger than ever, and how God has a plan in everything, and how he sees the plan so clearly now. And he just has such great faith. And I like to interview people just because other people out there are struggling and going through hardships of their own. And there are people who have gone through it and have made it through with the help of God. And God's there for us. And I know that God was there for you, Michelle. And, your kids, as you said, are growing up healthy now. And it was so scary for you. And you had such trauma too. But you know what? God was there and he led you all through it. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
I 100% agree. I couldn't agree more. It's just, God is always there for us, and we have to believe and to pray. And my thing is, if you're worrying, stop worrying and just pray. Leave it up to God. Stop the worry. I'm more of a worrier sometimes. So I'm just really trying to stop the worrying and just pray and kind of change my perspective on things and just, flip the switch and pray instead of worry, because what's worrying going to do? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
my wife's kind of a worrier too, and so I'm always telling her Matthew chapter 6. Can you add a single cubit to your life? Jesus asks, just by worrying. He's like, what is worrying going to do? He's like, Heavenly Father provides for the sparrows and the flowers, and how much more valuable are you than sparrows and flowers? He's going to provide you. He has your good in mind. He's going to take care of everything. Even though sometimes that everything doesn't look like what we think it should look like, he knows what he's doing, and it makes us better, stronger, no matter what it is, if we trust in him and go through it with him. I mean, we didn't want a Down syndrome baby. We did not. We prayed that we had everybody praying and their mother that the baby would be completely healthy, and it wasn't. It's not what we wanted, but it's what God wanted. And I know now that this baby is going to teach me more than I could have ever learned. I don't care who the child was and that was born to me. This kid's going to teach me so much that I need to know and I need to realize. And I know the whole world out there needs to realize the lessons that she's going to teach us: her innocence, her purity, her non-judgmentalism, and many other attributes that we just forget as we grow up. And you know what? She's going to remind the world of that. And that's a beautiful gift. And I'm so glad that God gave it to us, because I didn't know what I wanted and I didn't know what was good for me. But God does. And so I think that's the beauty of
yeah,
trusting.
definitely. I couldn't agree more with that. You said that so beautifully. She's a precious little angel from heaven.
Amen. She really is. And so, Michelle, tell me about, so your kids came home and you were struggling with that. Maybe you could talk about some of the feelings, like of, you're over the hurdle, they're through, what's going on now? How are they now? How's your life with them now? That sort of thing.
Yeah, they're doing well. They are at St. Mary's preschool. They're going to be in the 4-year-old program.
Wow,
Um,
already.
yeah, they really love it. They really love the religion aspect of it. They really, sending them to St. Mary's. I went to St. Mary's when I was in preschool. So, you know, Catholic school is very important to me. And I have really great experiences at St. Mary's, and I really want the kids to, have the same. And, we go to church every Sunday, and we try to, before meals, we're praying, and we have a little cross. My son Michael puts it right on the table, and they take turns saying a prayer, and we say, what are we grateful for today? And we're just trying to, kids lead their example. So I'm trying to be a great example for them to be great Catholics and Christians and everything. And, that's what I really want for them. And they're really loving that. They're seeing my faith, and I want my faith to help their faith grow. So, being a great example to my children, that's my goal. And also, Philip, my son, he was born with one ear, so he has microtia. So that's a struggle for us as a family and for him, but nothing's going to let him down. He is a little feisty guy. He is so smart, and he's so eager, and he's just a ball of energy. And he, that was another struggle of mine. Why did my son need to be born with one ear? What did I do? What did I
Right.
do during pregnancy? What happened? They didn't see anything in the ultrasound. They, it was just, they said it was an anomaly. They don't know why it happened. And for me, when somebody says you don't know why, or there's not a concrete answer, it doesn't sit right with me. I need to keep digging and digging and digging. And I did that for like 2 years. I went to a
Wow.
genetic doctor with him and this and that. There is no answer. He was born like that, and he's perfect the way he is. And, I think, throughout my whole life, I was always more of a perfectionist, what other people are going to think and how's it going to look and everything like that. I really believe that this is a lesson or something to look at, to say nothing is perfect. It doesn't need to look like the golden standard of like what normal is or what people think normal is. There is no normal. Everybody is beautiful in their own way. So, I try to look at what I learned from the situation, what I learned from the situation is that, you know, God, this is the plan. This is his plan for Philip, and Philip is going to teach me things. Just like you were saying earlier about your daughter. You know, Philip is so smart, and he just sees the world in a different way. He just lights up the room with his smile. And he's really intrigued with ears. He's really intrigued with ears. And he actually just had his tonsils out and his adenoids. And my brother's a PA working for an ENT. And Philip says he wants to be an ENT when he gets older.
Oh.
And I can see that. So I'm like, that's his gift. He's like, I want to remove tonsils like Dr. Pearl. Could you see me?
Yeah, you blacked out for a second, but that's all right. There's a big thunderstorm going on.
No, okay, sorry. I think somebody was trying to call me. Okay,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
back. Okay. So yeah, he's a ray of sunshine, and I'm gonna be able to learn from him. Like I was saying, he wants to be an
Amen.
ENT. So that would be amazing one day if he could do research on microtia and help kids just like him. I think I'm just gonna be there for him every step in the way, and anything he needs from me, I'm be his biggest advocate. So
Amen.
everyone's put on this earth to do something or to help people or whatever that is. But you know, I just think he's gonna be totally fine and with God right by his side.
Amen. Well said. Perfectly said. Like nobody's perfect, like you said, and yet everyone's perfect in God's eyes. Like God loves us all the same. And,
Definitely.
he might be missing an ear. Other people are missing other things. Some people are missing a heart. They're really mean and angry and bitter in their whole life. Some people are missing compassion. Others are missing the ability to have intimacy. And we all have some struggle in some way. We're all
Definitely.
imperfect. And I think that we don't see that. We see someone imperfect on the outside and we say, oh, they're deficient. When in fact, that might be his only deficiency when he could be an excellent person, world changer on the inside. But we're so shallow in this world that we judge people by the outside. And I think that's what I'm hoping. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that. And that's one of the things my daughter's teaching me. And I'm hoping that she can teach other people in this world too, is that we're shallow. There's so much more than just, the way we look or something that might be off about us. I always say, like you said, you're a perfectionist. My wife was and is a perfectionist also. And she spent so long with eating disorders and trying to be perfect look, perfect everything. And you know what? To what end? She ended up breaking herself in her fertility and other parts of her that had to be fixed and healed, just trying to chase some elusive perfection, when in fact we're perfect, as you said, as we are. God loves us as we are. We can change the world as we are. And my daughter's going to do that. Yeah, she's gonna, and it breaks my heart that people are going to judge her because she looks different. But man, she's never going to judge anyone. She's going to be so loving, kind, beautiful. Basically what Jesus tells us we need to be if we want to go to heaven, what everyone in heaven is going to be like. And that is much more important than the way we look on the outside. And
Yes.
hopefully
And
we can teach people that.
yeah, and I couldn't agree. I mean, my biggest worry about Philip when he was born and saying, what are other people going to think about him? What are they going to, are they going to judge him because he has one ear? Like my biggest thing was like going out and people looking and just staring. And it's like, okay, and then, when now since he's like 4.5, children are starting to recognize, when they're young, they don't really know. So one kid said, it was like the other day, he said, what is that? Like, what's wrong with you or something? And Philip, we were in a doctor's office and I just like ignored it. And like, I didn't want Philip to hear it because I feel bad, but he's going to have to face that. And what we're trying to tell him is, Philip, you were born like this. God made you special. And that's why you have one ear. I said, other people probably want to be just like you because you're so special. Like, I says, so he wears a Ponto. It's a hearing device. I said, this is your superpowers. I'm like, you put this on, you're Superman. So we're trying to use it in the way of like being super positive. And I don't want him to know that I'm nervous or whatever, because that just goes on to your child. Like, I show him I am so confident and so you got this. I don't want him to see that I'm nervous at all in any aspect. All my job is to give him confidence that he is amazing and God made me like this and I am perfect. So that's I kind of rehearse it with him to say, Phil, if somebody asks you, what is that? Like, what is that? Your Ponto, or why do you have one ear? He'll say, God made me like that. And this is me. I just want to make sure to instill that in him, to not think that
Exactly.
he's different.
And
So
hopefully
I
his
think that's
brother will be his cheerleader. I know in the Down
yeah,
syndrome world, a lot of Down syndrome kids, their older brother or sister, or even younger brother and sister, like will fight for them and stand up for them and, that sort of thing. And one girl, she's a model, like she's beautiful. She's a model and she does everything for and with her Down syndrome sister. She's her advocate. She advocates for the whole cause and she's using it as a beautiful platform. And there's, I think they have a what's it called? Instagram page. And the Instagram page has like 300,000 followers and they're influencing the
wow.
world. So a lot of good things
Oh,
happening with special needs kids and people in the family
I
sticking
love
up for them
it.
and making a difference for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Definitely.
But
I love that.
I want to thank you for sharing your story. I mean, I know that, when I saw you at church, I noticed you because I noticed him without an ear. And I noticed he
Yeah.
had his hearing aid thing on. And I was noticing that, my daughter's going to have that same hearing aid someday. So I was like, I need to go see if it works, we found out that they actually have very similar condition, microtia in the ear. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's so weird. And here we are, and we both had struggles. We both got through them. God gave us both joy and peace on the other side. And, you're doing well. And I praise God for you. I think it's wonderful that you're advocating, you're leading, you're being a world changer in some way, and you're helping your kids to be also. So, kudos to you, and everything you've gone through, and you let your faith lead the way. I'm so thankful for you. And, you and me are nobodies, we're not like big popular people. We're just little people making a difference in the world around us.
Definitely. I love that. It was such a pleasure to be on your show, Bryan. You're doing amazing things and, really trying to help others. I think learning through other people's experiences and, can really speak volumes to helping people. I mean, we're put on this earth to help people and be there for people through Jesus Christ. So I really
Amen.
appreciate you having me on your show and you're doing great things for the world.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to tell you about a video on our regular Catholic Truth channel that I want you to watch. And all of you audience out there, I want you all to watch it. Just look up Catholic Truth, Margaret of Costello. Margaret of Costello. If you haven't seen her, if you don't know who she is, go watch that video. She was born in the 1300s to a military leader, and he was a powerful man, and he just couldn't wait to pass the legacy on to his son. And then they found out they were pregnant. They had a week-long celebration in the land, a week-long, the entire kingdom. And then they found out it was a girl and not a boy to lead. And so not only was he depressed, he got even more deathly depressed when he found out the girl was blind, a hunchback, ugly, and crippled. And so she basically looked horrid. And he was so embarrassed by her, he locked her away in a prison for 14 years, in a prison he built in his backyard. And she cried every day, but that's just the beginning. Like what happens from there is just amazing. It's like makes me want to cry, just how one little midget can change the world and become a saint. It's just the most beautiful story. And I know it inspired me. And I know it'll inspire you and everyone else out there as well. So Margaret of Costello, check out her story. It's amazing, everybody. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you all for watching and for tuning in to our channel. If you would like more videos on parenthood, the good, the bad, the ugly, the awesome, check out our other videos here on our channel. And if you would like to be able to know your Catholic faith, explain it, defend it, and come closer to Christ, check out our main Catholic Truth channel. Thank you all for watching, and God bless you.